Welcome to Construction Champions Podcast, where we are burning the house down and rebuilding it twice a week. I'm your host, Ron Nussbaum, and I am here to help you become the champion that you're meant to be. Along with our amazing guests along the way, we will provide you with the resources, the latest and greatest. You will sit down with disruptors in the construction industry. And my goal from day one has always been to change the mindset around the construction industry. No more where we let the 3% of bad apes dictate the entire reputation of. All right, construction champions, we're here. Another episode, another amazing guest. As always, I'm Ron Nussbaum. I'm the host. And you guys aren't showing up to see me. You're showing up to listen to our guests, to continue to move forward, to being that champion that you're meant to be. Today's episode is no different. We have an amazing guest, and I am super excited to have this conversation today. Tara, it is great to have you here with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, why don't you introduce yourself to all the construction champions listening out there?
Absolutely. I'm Tara Landis. I am based in Vancouver, Canada, and I've been working in the construction industry as a consultant for about a quarter of a century now. I've seen everything you can imagine in residential construction and then some, and I love the industry. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. I love it. I love when we get people on here that have been around and have seen everything, because it leads to just amazing conversations.
Yeah, well, I can tell you a funny story about how I got involved in this. I was working as a consultant. I was based on the East Coast of North America, and we were using telemarketers to get introductions. Well, our telemarketers would start at 9 a.m. on the East Coast, but guess what? Nobody would answer the phone at 9 a.m. because they knew it was telemarketers. You know who does answer the phone? The construction people answer the phone at 6 a.m. on the West Coast. And so that's how I got involved in construction, actually, was our telemarketers would only be able to get appointments on the West Coast. And so because those are the guys that work early, right? Those are the guys that are in the morning doing the thing. And that's how it all started.
Awesome. I love it. And I love that you're saying we answer the phone, because a lot of times people say, you guys are the worst at answering the phone.
Well, you answer it early because that's right. That's when the scheduling's all happening.
Yeah, that before the day starts and we really get into it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's dive right in there. I'm going to ask the $1 million question, and that is, what makes a construction champion?
Is communication chaos holding your construction business back? Emails, texts, and generic tools weren't built for your business. BuilderComms delivers a platform built for construction. Fully branded, custom workflows, and seamless integration, all designed to fix communication for good. From our free forever plan to your own custom solution, we make construction software not suck. Ready to transform your business? Book your free strategy call today.
Okay. I expected this question, of course, because I've listened to your podcast. I'm a big fan. And I gave it a lot of thought. And I was thinking, everybody can't be a champion, right? So what makes a construction champion? And I think there's a few stages to it. I think first, when people are starting out in construction, what makes them a champion is just being an ideal team player, right? They're humble. They're not in it just for themselves or for the credit. They're there. They pick up the hammer, they pick up the broom, they do whatever needs to be done. And they're hardworking, right? They show up 5 minutes early, they stay 5 minutes late, and they're people smart, because this industry is full of characters of every single kind you can imagine. And so they're really good at reading the circumstances that they're in. So I think that's how it starts. But then what happens is they discover a passion for building, and they get really into their craft. A champion is at their core a craftsperson. But to be a real champion, they need the third piece, which is that they start building more than just homes. They start building themselves. They learn about finance. They learn about management. They learn about all of the things that can make a construction business really work. And that's when they become a champion.
I love it because we are in a business. Like most people get it confused. Talk about it on here all the time. I actually listened to an episode from almost 2 years ago where I referenced the same thing. Is we have to stop thinking about it as a construction business, and we just have to start thinking about it as a business.
Yeah, 100%. One of the things that I've noticed over and over again is I'll go in and I'll see, they were really good at what they did and they had a truck and then they found a friend and then they got another truck and then you've got this company that's born, but they never really intended necessarily to build a company. And one of the first things I think a real champion will do, to be honest, is hire a bookkeeper. Which sounds crazy because they're busy hiring people, crew to do the work, the billable stuff, the stuff that makes money. But they don't understand that the bookkeeper, the controller, even the CFO, those people are there to help them make money. I mean, that's why they started the business. It was to make money. There's all this other stuff they do as well, but at the end of the day, it's about the money too.
Yeah, we all saw businesses because we have goals, we have objectives, we have stuff we want to do, whether it's personal or family and that all comes back to the money. And I couldn't agree more when you start bringing on the people that understand the money and the flow. And I still go back to that one of the best decisions we ever made was to bring on a controller
Mm-hmm.
because they just understand money and the flow of it and what to do with it. Completely different than most individuals, even a bookkeeper, your CFO or your accountant. Like
Yeah.
they don't look at it the same way as a controller does. And when you're generating all this money, we know construction it can be vastly profitable if you let it be, but you have to put some people in positions that can let your company be profitable.
Yeah, yeah, and you just see too many people sitting in, they're sitting in their living room at 3 o'clock in the morning trying to figure out their invoices. No, don't do that, right? Hire a professional, just like you would hire a professional to build a home. You would hire a professional to watch the money.
So why do you think you've been around for a while? Why do you think we have such a hard time hiring those key roles in construction and giving that up, even though we suck at it? It just seems like we don't want to take that off our plate.
Yeah, well, I think it comes back to this idea that they're not making you money. And so entrepreneurs in particular, people who start the business, they see their time, they don't value their own time. So like if they're at 3 o'clock in the morning doing their books, that time is free. They see it as not costing anything. And of course, it costs a lot. 3 o'clock in the morning, that's like prime billable time, right? That's that's when you need to be sleeping. And so I think that's part of it. I think another part of it is it's not something that's well understood. Most of the clients that I work with, anyway, are people who are really good at what they did. They're really good at construction. They're really good at building homes. They're really good at finding home owners that want a home. They have so many talents, but they may not have spent time learning about the money side of business. And so that there's sort of a lack of recognition that that's actually a profession too.
Mm. It's you're 100% on point like that. How do we educate guys on that? How do we get them to realize your time's worth more than what you think it is? And having somebody that understand, I love what you said at the beginning, like you hire a builder to build a home because that's what they do.
Right.
You have to hire people, even if it's not a revenue generating employee. And I would argue that people on the money side are more revenue generating because they generate profit, which is what really matters for your business, than the people that are actually generating the revenue.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I mean, from a cash flow perspective, imagine if you could just sleep well at night because you weren't worried about that because someone else was, right? Did I just spend Mr. So-and-so's deposit on Ms. So-and-so's house? Because wait, what's going on? It's so calming to have somebody watching the money. And I totally agree with you that it's about profit. Like, you got into business to make money. So let's have somebody watch the money and find the inefficiencies and find where we're paying overtime that we can't pass back to the client. All those kinds of good things. And your question, how do we get people to know this? Well, one way is by doing podcasts like this, I think. Spread the gospel, right? And for people to hear from their peers how valuable this hire can be. We also offer management training programs. So we help people in construction with all sorts of different managerial things, from finance to how to motivate people to how to set expectations. And so there are classes available for people to learn this stuff.
Awesome. I love it. And when it comes to, I'm just going the revenue thing, because I love scaring. I love growing, because that top line numbers, that's what feeds our ego. But at the end of the day, it's the profit that actually feeds us. And we lose sight of that. You can do 20 million a year and lose money, but be this $20 million a year construction company. And to me, that just doesn't make any sense. And we have to shift the mindset from when the question's asked, what do you do in a year? It's not revenue based. It's how much money did I make? Like, what is that profit on what I did? You can run a smaller company and make more money than some guys that run bigger companies.
Absolutely. And I mean, let's face it, people are hard to manage. So the bigger you get, usually that means the more staffing you have to deal with, more humans you have to deal with. Um, some of the most successful companies that I've worked with make maybe 3 houses a year. They're usually really big ones. And they're very, very good at their estimating, and they make a lot of money on their projects. And there are other companies that are just building tons of houses all the time, but they might not be making anything. And in fact, what you'll find is they're often in pretty dire cash flow situations.
Yeah, and you referenced cash flow a couple of different times. If we surveyed our listeners, I would happen to think that one of the number one things that keep them up at night is cash flow.
Absolutely. I can't tell you how many companies, well, I guess I could, but I don't want to, that I go into and we'll just do a quick look at their books. And I mean, we're not accountants. We're management consultants. We help people, manage any part of their business, but we'll look at their books, and what we'll figure out on a Monday is they're not going to make payroll on Friday. And that will be the first time that that signal got alerted to them. And what they did in the past is they pulled money from their own bank account and just threw it in the business, right? Oh, well, I'll just cover the float right now. That is a really dangerous game, really dangerous game. So, yeah, cash is king.
I've unfortunately, I've been there. I've known that feeling, because that's when you don't have people in your corner to educate you and you're learning yourself. Like, that's the kind of stuff that happens.
Yeah.
And when we talk management training, we talk about it's not just you. And I think a lot of times we isolate ourselves. Even if we build a team, we isolate ourselves away from it, and we always feel like every problem is our problem, instead of empowering those around us to help be part of the solution.
Yes, and hiring the right kind of people that can be empowered. We, I find it interesting when people in construction try to save money on hiring, like try to pay the lowest amount, or even just like slightly below average. What are you thinking? Those people, those people are representing your business. You want the best possible talent, and it's going to pay itself back 3 times over. Imagine if you're working as a team and not as an individual. Imagine how much more powerful that is, how much better things can get done. And that takes you all the way back to that ideal team player, right? Looking for people who are hardworking, humble, and smart about things. And then whatever training they have to support your business.
And then it's up to you to continue to develop them and put the game plan, which I'm kind of excited about, because that's what you do. And we're seeing a trend towards that. Like, I remember 8 years ago when we rolled out our own like we figured out that we need to develop leaders within our company. Like we figured out how to hire great people. Now, how do we move them into being leaders in our company? And there was no resources out there at the time. And we built our own training program out. And it was such a game changer because you learn so much. But now people aren't alone in this. They're like yourself can come and help standardize that stuff, put processes around that.
And it's so great because then a company, even a small company, right? They can have this is what our managers need to do to become managers. This is what our people, if you want to get into management, if you want to be a site super, if you want to be a project manager, if you want to get into management, you have to take the class. And now we all speak in the same language in our organization. And if another person comes along 5 years later, take the same class. If they take the same class, then we're all speaking the same language. We're all being built on the same foundation. And it becomes the company's language and the company's way of doing things. And so any sort of resource you can find, again, if you're really good at construction, it's possible that you're not also really good at training. And maybe there's a resource out there that's done this a time or two that might be able to help you. Because I got to tell you, when they built my house, nobody asked me to pick up a hammer. Not one single person. They knew. They looked at me and they knew. It wasn't going to be me building that thing.
Yeah, this is something that's so broken in our industry because how we inherently promote, how we inherently, it's the wrong way. Like
Yeah, well, you pick the guy who's the best individual contributor, like the best framer there is in the world. And we've decided that if you're the best framer, you must also be amazing at managing people. And it's like opposite, right? They're two, and it's not to say that a really great framer couldn't become a great manager. They can. But what I will say is that the skills are not the same. And in fact, if you take your best individual contributor and make them a manager and don't give them the training, what you've done is you've actually fired your best individual contributor from that role and you've put them in as like an okay subpar manager to lead the other people that weren't as good as they were. What do you think's going to happen? Well, one of two things. Either that manager, that new manager is going to figure it out, sink or swim, or they're going to drive everybody else on that team crazy because they do not know what they're doing. They'll probably micromanage it to death.
sink or swim. That's definitely the industry slang. And one of the things is we don't even have we don't even ask if that, like, let's say this expert framer, what I've found is not all of them want to be in a leadership role. They just love that they're the best at what they do on the job site, and that's what they want to do.
Yeah, and agreed. And also, they don't necessarily want to be a leader or a manager, but they want the recognition of how great they are. They want more money because they're more valuable, and they want a title that demonstrates respect. And so they only see one way to get that, which is people management. But again, totally wrong-headed. Like your best framer, I mean, maybe framing's not the right one, but your best individual contributor can contribute so much financially to the organization. You can afford to pay them more, actually. Just only make people managers, um, because we don't want to wreck those individual contributors. Not everybody wants to be a manager, but everybody wants to make more money.
Yeah, I remember I had a guy that I promoted to being a foreman, and he was amazing at what he did. And it would appear to me that that's what he wanted. And as soon as he became a foreman, everything went to shit. And I sat down and had a conversation with him and said, well, like, what's the deal? And he's like, I just don't want to do this. Like, I want to do what I was doing. And it hit me is I had never even asked him if he wanted to run a crew.
Right.
I just assumed And here I made his life for 30 days that he was doing it. His life was miserable. Like his home life was like everything. And as soon as I moved him back out of that role, everything went back to being fine. And he loved life again. And I was like, this is such an error on my behalf to not be having these conversations and asking these questions.
Yeah. And I will also say that, you're not alone in that. I mean, that happens a lot, but you're in some ways very lucky that he was willing to take that step back because a lot of people, their ego can't take that. They don't want to go home to their wife who's been miserable for the last 30 days and say, actually, I got demoted. I mean, nobody wants to say that.
Well, it's because I had an open conversation with him. It was like,
Yeah.
what do you really want? He's like, I just want a path to continue being the absolute best guy I can be on the cruise, continue to make more money. And so what we did was we were able to fashion where I could pay him more. And you know what he really he liked teaching guys what we did. So I was able to make him it, like you said, the title thing and more money is he became a trainer on the crew, which alleviated some of the pressure from the foreman to have to do that. So when we would bring in new guys after they went through our training, we would move them over to that crew where they had a guy that could continue to work with them until they had it, and it made him completely happy. He can continue be at selling at what he did best, and then also pass that knowledge on to the new people coming into the company. And
I love that. And it speaks to one of the foundational systems that a lot of construction companies don't have, which is, and I mean, I know this is going to cause groans among everyone, but performance evaluations. Because having a regular performance evaluation, having that space in the calendar that a manager or a leader and their direct report can talk, that's where you get to uncover those things. Like, I don't want to manage people. Or I think I'd be really good at the training side of this business or whatever it is. That's a space carved out to make sure that we don't make those kind of promotional errors.
absolutely. And whatever you guys do that are listening, do not do them an hour or an hour and a half before the day starts. Don't be
Right.
like, hey, come in an hour early. We're going to do this performance review. Just do that. That crew just has to roll out later that day because, like, don't make them come in early to do something that's your responsibility to do with them. You find the time to do it with
Yes.
them.
Treat important things importantly. And if you make this something you do off the side of your desk because you have to, or, oh, now I got to do this form. I mean, this is an opportunity for that person to learn and grow as an individual. Talk about construction. We're constructing like this professional right now, and that's your job. They entrusted their career in your hands, and you need to take that seriously because it's really serious to them. People really get addicted to their food and their shelter, and they want to make sure that they can have that for a long period of time. As their boss, that's your job. Treat it importantly.
One of the things I found was it's not always something that has to happen at your desk. A
Right.
lot of times I would just say, hey, I'm going to come grab you from the job site around lunchtime and we're going to go to lunch and go do it somewhere. And it becomes what I found was the conversations flowed a lot better because guys didn't feel like they were in this meeting with the boss and like, am I going to say the wrong thing or the right thing? There's just something about when you're breaking bread and you can go through this stuff and get a lot better results.
I love that tactic. And I even like just going for a walk. Like, let's
I love that.
go for a walk around a couple blocks here, or go walk around the job site and look at things or whatever. When you don't have to look eyeball to eyeball across the table, that also changes the dynamic quite a bit. People get more well, if you've ever driven with kids in the car and they're in the back seat and I mean, those are your deepest conversations you're going to have, especially with
Mhm.
teenage boys, is whether they're sitting when you're driving in the car because they don't have to look at you to talk about it.
Yeah, my son's going to be 7 years old. I can't imagine the conversations we're going to be having because sometimes on the way to school, the conversations get interesting. And I've never thought about like why that is. And it's because he's sitting back there and
and there's nothing else to do and you're not staring at each other. And yeah, just you wait. You're gonna love those conversations even more as the years go on.
So what do you feel is one of the is speaking to our listeners out there that are like, I understand I should do this, but I don't have the time or I don't have the money or all the hurdles that you hear is what can you say to them to help get them over the hump so we can get them to being the champion that they're meant to be?
Yeah, well, I would just really encourage them to think about this not as a cost, but as an investment. And I think when you're as an individual person, yes, things cost money. But when you're building a business, you're investing. That's the point. You're putting money in so that it can make more money coming out. And so you make choices about what can give you the best return on your investment. For my dollar, it's people. People can give me the best return on my investment. It's hard. It's hard to understand. I could buy this piece of equipment or I could train all my people. Well, I know what the equipment's going to do for me. I'm very clear about that, but I'm not as clear. It's a bit fuzzier on the people training side. And so maybe a good idea is to try it. Just try it. And hey, maybe the best person to invest in is yourself. So maybe the leader themselves should try taking a couple classes in management or leadership if they haven't done so already to see if it's worth it or not. I mean, that's where you're going to figure it out. And I know with our program, because we have one-on-one coaching with our program, the leaders, they talk about it like it's business therapy, but they really do get exactly what they need at the time that they need it. And so once the leader has taken the program, their people almost always follow through as well.
Well, yeah, amen to that. Like if you're not investing in yourself, if you're not moving the needle for yourself, how do you expect, like you can't say, I'm not doing this, but all of you should.
Right. Yes, exactly. Everybody, you can't do as I do, not as I say, right? Said every parent ever. You gotta lead by example, lead by doing. And if you're concerned about the investment, invest in yourself first. See what happens. I also think that your listeners are really primed to invest in themselves. I mean, they're doing that right now just by listening to this podcast. They're investing in their learning and development.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that because anytime that kind of stuff comes up, I love to point it out to everybody listening is 95% of people that listen to podcasts don't do anything afterwards. Like they just consume the data and then move on with their life, which is the wrong. If you're taking the time to invest 30 minutes into listening to us talk today, like you should do something. Like
Yes.
to me, it's like, like, come on. Let's
Amen.
do
Preach.
do one thing out of what we talked about, even if it's just going on YouTube after this and watching a management leadership video and then putting some of that in your business. Like, please do something.
I couldn't agree more. That's why our programs, our classes run, but with each class, there is a one-on-one coaching 2 weeks later because we can hold people more accountable to using the tools that we taught in the class. So I totally agree with you. And one of the easiest things that people can do, especially if they listen to podcasts and things like that, is just create a voice note of your key takeaway. Like, what was your key takeaway from this conversation? What was your key takeaway from whatever it was that you were listening? Create a voice note. It doesn't take any time to do that. And you can play it back the next day. And just by accessing that information in your own brain and in your own way, you are far more likely to retain it. If you put a comment on the YouTube channel, again, you are far more likely, you are doing yourself a service because you're far more likely to remember the thing that you wrote down because now you've taken some thought to craft it well. Just say whatever the key thing was that you learned. It makes a huge difference.
I love it. I love it. I think that's a fantastic way to end our conversation here today. So for all the construction champions out there listening, if they wanted to connect with you, learn more about what you do, follow you, where's the best places for them to do that?
Well, the best place is www.bellrock.ca, Bellrock. We, as I said, we offer training and programs and consulting. We work in this industry all the time and absolutely love it. And they can find me on LinkedIn too, Tara Landis.
Awesome. Tara, well, thank you for taking the time and being on the show today.
And thank you for championing the whole industry, Ron. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, construction champions, another episode where we talked about the most valuable thing you have in your company, whether you have one employee or 1,000. The employees are what will make or break your company. And the sooner we realize that, the sooner we can actually start growing a business and not just I had this conversation yesterday with a guy, and we were just talking, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm just, I'll be a general contractor and it's going to be all good. And I said, general contractors drive around in $150,000 check, but they don't know where their next check's coming from. Guys that run businesses that do general contracting, they drive around in a $150,000 truck and they understand how they're going to get paid. And I was like, you have to change the mindset around that. So if that's you listening right now and your brand new F450 lifted up, headed to the job site, but you're not sure if you're going to get paid on that job, you have to start to invest in those people around you. And I know we talk about it. It's like one of the many elephants in the room in construction, but the sooner that you start to invest in your people, and I'm going to go one step further, is not just your employees. If you sub everything out, like investing in those subs, getting them to be better at their craft because you have invested in yourself. And don't skip the step of investing in yourself, because that's going to be the foundation. That's going to give you the ability to be able to educate and to be able to get your employees where they need to be at. So you can actually build a team, not just a bunch of people that you're hoping show up every day. As the construction industry changes, and we talk all the time about all the labor problems that we have, this is your solution. This is how you fix it. Because when you invest in people, you give them an opportunity, you give them growth, you meet with them and have these conversations, they will become loyal to you. They won't consider going and working for Joe Smo down the road, even if he offers them more money, because they're like, I just don't have the opportunity, or I don't know, am I going to be respected? Am I going to have, it becomes emotional.
Yeah. And they might leave, but they'll come back.
Yeah. It becomes this emotional tie they have to you, which becomes loyalty, because they want to be along for the ride, because they're watching your story unfold as you learn and you get better, and you put them in a position where they have opportunity to learn and get better, not just at their craft, but just as a human. Like I say, this isn't just about having a business. It's about having a great family life. It's about having great finances. It's about having everything. And we can, but we have to be willing to invest in it and understand that it is an investment. It's not a cost. So construction champions, make sure you check out all of our fantastic sponsors, partners, whatever we're calling them these days. And until next time, be the champion that you're meant to be.
Unlock the potential of property intelligence with HomeTrack. In seconds, generate over 250 data points from a single address using advanced imaging and public data. Streamline property assessments efficiently, saving both time and resources. Enhance your decision-making today. Experience the future of property insights. Engage with HomeTrack now.
Tired of losing track of promising leads? Struggling to convert inquiries into contracts? Build 12 is your solution. Over 30 years of industry expertise tailored for contractors ensures seamless lead management and nurturing. Boost your closing rate with ease. Experience the efficiency today. Download Build 12 and supercharge your business growth. Don't wait, act now.